Good morning. Welcome all of you to a special webinar series on the new groundwater guidelines, government and industry perspective, challenges and way forward. New groundwater guidelines issued by Central Groundwater Authority for effective usage of groundwater. And these are three-part series webinar, which we have started a couple of months back. This is the third and most important edition of this webinar series. This webinar series is supported by National Water Mission, Central Groundwater Board, and IIT Kanpur, and technology partner Crystal Technologies, and organized by APAC News Network. I'd like to welcome all our esteemed guests who are part of this webinar and all the delegates who are attending today. Uh, you know that this is the third and final part of the series, three-part series of this webinar. The aim of this knowledge sharing platform is to discuss various aspects of groundwater management, impact of new guidelines by Central Groundwater Authority, government industry collaboration, and what are the opportunities to use newest technologies for effective usage of groundwater. Keeping in mind, we have organized this three-part series webinar only on the new groundwater guideline issued by Central Groundwater Board. And if I may just highlight the 2-3 points of these guidelines. One is that all industries using more than 100 KLD shall conduct annual water audit. All the groundwater extradition structures shall be installed with a tamper-proof digital flow meter with telemetry, and industries have to adopt suitable methods to reduce water extradition by 20% in 3 years. We know it's a very challenging thing because there are a lot of issues related to groundwater usage in India, especially with industry and government establishment as well. And also, at the same time, there are a lot of areas where more and more discussion should happen. That's why this webinar series has been created. But before I start the webinar, let me introduce to all of you our esteemed speakers of this webinar. Let me first introduce to all of you. We're honored to have Sri GC Pati, Chairman, Central Groundwater Board. He'll be delivering the keynote address in this webinar. We welcome Sri GC Pati. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're joined by Dr. Pandit Madhnure, Director, Groundwater Department, Government of Telangana. Thank you so much, Dr. Pandit, for joining us today from Telangana. We're joined by Anil Bhatia, CTO, Haryana Resources Authority, and he was also a retired director of Central Groundwater Board. Thank you so much, Mr. Anil Bhatia, for joining us. We're also joined by Mr. S.K. Chaurasia, Chief Executive Officer, Aditi Infotech, Nagpur. And we're also joined by Mr. Manoj Joshi, proprietor, Greenix Corporation, Surat, Gujarat. Thank you so much, Mr. Manoj, for joining us. And we're also joined by Vinay Chattaraju, co-founder and head business development, Krishnam Technologies. We welcome Vinay. Thank you so much for joining us. Your take will be very important because you have the solution. Your company has a solution. Your startup has a solution to use more and more newest technologies for effective usage of groundwater, especially keeping in mind the industrial areas. Thank you so much, Vinay, for joining us. With this, let me first request GC Pati will be delivering the keynote address of this webinar. So my question is that CGWA and Central Groundwater Board has done a commendable job when it comes to coming up with the new guidelines for effective usage of groundwater. The notification clearly says that the guidelines are applicable pan-India, but at the same time, water is also a state subject, and some states have their own act, which differs from central guidelines. On the other hand, NGT has got very stringent, they are very stringent on the groundwater management. So, sir, how do you foresee groundwater regulation evolving in India between center and states? What should be the role of industries and other commercial users, keeping in mind for the coming years on usage of groundwater for regulating purposes? So your take on that, Sri GC Pati, Chairman, Central Groundwater Board.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. All the co-panelists who are present in this and all the participants. It's really heartening to know that this APAC News Network has conducted this webinar or web series at this difficult situation of the pandemic. Of course, all the participants are here and all the panelists are here. We will be speaking on the different aspects of the problems which they are facing regarding the implementation of the guidelines, what are the impact of the guidelines on them, and also there are people from the government like our director from Telangana Groundwater Department, then Dr. A.K. Bhatia from Haryana. He was regional director from CGWA, and also their company participants. But here we have to definitely emphasize one point, that water is so important. It's a vital component for the growth of economy, and simultaneously it is also very critical for the ecology. And as we all know, as the population is growing, we are depending more and more on the water resources. We are overexploiting, we are misusing, overusing, and also in many places we are polluting this water, which is causing a great deal of hazard. Which, so we need to have a trade-off between the development or use of water for the growth of economy, and simultaneously we have to conserve, preserve, and augment the water resources to aid the ecology. So before going to the guidelines, I must say what is the water situation in India. We all know that India, which was having a marvelous, quite enough quantity of water per capita when we got independence, which is gradually reduced, and now by 2011 India has entered to a water stress condition, and with the business usual, probably we will be entering to a state of groundwater scarcity by the year 2050 if you do not take some definitive measures. Here comes one thing, that out of the total utilizable water, I will say, because we are getting a lot of water from precipitation and other things, but the utilizable water is 1132 billion cubic meters, 1132 billion cubic meters, out of which surface water is 690 billion cubic meters, but groundwater is 432 billion cubic meters. But if you see, groundwater forms almost two-thirds of the utilizable water resource uh, as compared to the surface water. But if we consider what is the use from groundwater, then we can see that groundwater is catering to about 60% of the irrigation requirement of the country, though it is only 632 in comparison to 690 surface water. It is catering to about 85% of the rural and 50% of the urban drinking water needs. And the most important paradox is that about 80% of the irrigated area which has been added in the last 5 to 6 decades has come from groundwater, even though all the efforts from the government side has been made to develop the surface water resources. Now India is at the top of the countries in groundwater withdrawal. Our groundwater withdrawal, which is about 250 billion cubic meters, it is about a quarter of the world's withdrawal. Though it contributes about 9% of the GDP, but it is alarming. So why it has happened, we all know, because the groundwater is available everywhere. The ease of access, ease of operation, less gestation period, because always anybody can have a well, and all these things they can have the water used, and the economy and other factors have made groundwater to be the most preferred resource. So for that reason, it has been exploited to the largest amount, and we have reached to a situation where about 21% of our the groundwater resource assessment units have become either overexploited or critical. And if you see the water quality condition in a large part of our country, the groundwater is having one or more chemical constituents which exceeds the permissible limit of their use. So under these circumstances, it is the dire necessity that we regulate the water use. But here comes the real problem. So how to regulate? First, we should see what are the other options. We can augment the resources. We can go for the supply side management. We can go for the demand side management also. So supply side management is basically vested with the government as far as so far as we are concerned as of now, though there are little contributions from other sectors. But the demand side management is the most important one, which needs to be taken care of if you want to have a water secure future. So if keeping all these points in view, the Supreme Court through a legislation has declared Central Groundwater Board as the Central Groundwater Authority to regulate the water resource. So here again, if we see the water use, about 89% of the water which is withdrawn in India is utilized for the irrigation purpose. But here the problem is that in the most part of India, the farmers are small or marginal, and they practice sustenance farming. So it is really difficult or impossible to regulate unless sufficient food grains and alternative engagement employment opportunities are created. So that cannot be touched as of now, seeing the socio-economic condition. And now comes to the industries where the regulation is implemented for industries, for infrastructure, and for the mining parts. These guidelines which have been formed since Central Groundwater Board, and wherever the state authorities are there, they are regulating the resources. Here, why it is so? We all know. So we have several type of classifications of like overexploited and critical and semi-critical, then safe areas. But the industries tend to concentrate in particular areas because of their necessity of so many other aspects, like say, mostly they're in the proximity to urban areas and bodies, such urban bodies. And the extraction by industries is always very large. Even a small industry, as we are telling, maybe at a particular place they may be drawing 100 KLD, 50 KLD, like that, and there are others minings they go for even more than that, in tens of hundreds of KLD also they go for that. So for that reason, there is their necessity for regulating these things. So now, if you come to the history of regulation, initially by the promulgation of the Supreme Court, Central Groundwater Board started regulating the groundwater withdrawal by means of providing NOC to the people who were applying, to the industries, the infrastructure units and others who were applying to Central Groundwater Authority, and they are given NOC based on the available guidelines at that time, which envisaged that in the overexploited area, people have to go for 200% recharge, considering their withdrawal. Similarly, in other areas, and in safe areas, it is optional. It was up to 50% of the withdrawal. So, like this, the industries were given NOC whoever were applying, and similarly for the infrastructure, and similarly for the mining also. So, after a few years, there was again another litigation in the NGT, and the NGT has given certain directions to the Central Groundwater Board, Central Groundwater Authority rather, that we have to refrain from giving NOC to the proponents in OCS areas, that is overexploited, critical and semi-critical areas. So for that reason, for about 2 years, these type of units were neither given NOC nor given the renewal also, which were existing. And a lot of deliberations were made, So many committees are made where even independent of Central Groundwater Authority. And finally, the NGT was to be satisfied with the present guidelines which are in force, about which we are now talking. So here a trade-off has been made. Previously, what happened when we are asking for the industry to go for about 200% um, recharge in comparison to their withdrawal, in many cases it was not possible because sometimes the industry didn't have a proper type of areas or proper type of land within their premises. Sometimes the availability of the recharge water was not available, and in turn they tried to have some other means like adopting certain ponds in certain villages, this thing, that thing. This happened, but a committee which visited for these uh, things, some sampling were done, and they are not satisfied with the measures which were taken by these industries. So for that reason there was a necessity to revise this. So a trade-off was made between the direction of the NGT not to allow the new industries in the overexploited areas, and also simultaneously to continue. The government wanted to make the industries continue in these areas which were existing, because we cannot suddenly stop some industries which are functioning. So for that reason, there was another direction from the NGT, which envisages that we should have the impact assessment reports. If some industry or some proponent will be withdrawing certain water, what will be the impact of this on the uh, groundwater situation in that particular area, and if there is some mitigative measures which can be taken. And again, they also asked that a development plan for each of the units have to be made before allowing these industries for withdrawal of water for their use. So for that reason, this in these guidelines, it was again we made a trade-off so that the industries who were drawing more than 100 KLD of water, they are being asked to have water audit, and they need to uh, reduce their water use by at least 20% in the next 3 years. Here comes to my mind that one thing I must say, that we all may be knowing that the water footprint in the industrial production in India is also among the highest in the world. That is a dubious distinction we have, because we use rather more water than many other countries in the world to produce the same quantity of the produce. So for that reason, there is a lot of scope of reducing the water use. There is a lot of scope of reducing the freshwater use also. In many places, there is a possibility of using the recycled water. There is a possibility of using treated water. So for that also, maybe that we can we may not use the freshwater resources. For that reason, this water audit was a must, and the industries need to take up and they have to implement. Then this impact assessment report, which we are now getting prepared, because some consultants have been identified, um, uh, and they have to produce reports. They have to carry out the study of the hydrogeology in the area. Though Central Groundwater Board is having has covered almost the entire India through the survey, but the industries will be concentrated in very local places where some micro level study is needed, and where we need to know what exactly how the groundwater is behaving in that area, what is the um, type of the groundwater regime which is occurring there, and how it is getting, how the groundwater system is getting affected, whether it is the volume is reducing or not, whether the pollution is occurring or not. And there should also, these consultants will be coming up with certain ideas that how this can be mitigated. Uh, and again, coming to the guidelines, if you see that certain type of users have been given exemption. So there are say micro and small in entrepreneurs, which are drawing less than 10 KLD of water, they are exempted from the purview of this getting NOC. And here provision has been made in our no cap NOC application, where they can directly uh, put their requirements and auto NOC is generated for them. Similarly, the domestic requirements are exempted, and then the defense establishments and many other such type of organizations are exempted from use of water. In the rural areas, water supply is exempted. But the industries which are operating in critical and overexploited areas, it is definitely the onus lies with the industries that they take the responsibility of saving, of augmenting, of protecting the groundwater if they are using. Even if they, even the NOC is issued to them, if they do not take the requisite measures, if they do not reduce their water requirement, or if they do not go for the other options, and if you do not augment the resources, the days are not far that they will not be having access to the sufficient quantity of groundwater at their places in the near future. So for that reason, it is a dire necessity. And here also in the new guidelines, certain aspects like this bulk water suppliers through tankers and others. Previously, they were not supposed. They were not in the ambit of this regulation. Now, in the new guidelines, they have also been taken into the ambit, so that they have to take permission, of course, from the respective state governments. So here, Central Groundwater Authority is implementing the guidelines and providing the NOC to the industries, infrastructure, and mining projects in the areas where the state groundwater authority is not there. Of course, our anchor from the APAC, he raised a question regarding the states where they have a different type of guidelines than the Central Groundwater Authority. But the fact is that the present guidelines, when they were circulated, the states were given liberty to have guidelines of their own, which can be more stringent than the guidelines which has been provided by this CGWA. But they cannot dilute it. So definitely, that is definitely the direction of protection of the water resources. So these guidelines, I hope that at least it will make the industries responsible for water use. It will be definitely the industries will have self-regulation. They will reduce their water use. They will circulate, recycle, and use the water, and it will definitely help both the industries and also the groundwater managers or the planners. It both will be helped. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, GC Patiji, Chairman, Central Groundwater Board. I think he has not only answered all the questions put by me, but also this answers needed to be there, because these are very important points raised by Sri GC Pati, and he has given an overview of the groundwater guidelines, why the groundwater guidelines was issued, and what can be done by the state governments who has got their own act, and how Central Groundwater Board is working with the various stakeholders, and also the owners also lies with the industry to use groundwater effectively. I'll come to other speakers, but before that, I'll ask two short questions to Sri Pati. Mr. Pati, do you think that for this new groundwater guideline, it is important that more and more awareness campaign needs to be created? Because I don't think the amount of people who are taking guideline permission or the NOC from the Central Groundwater Board is sufficient enough, keeping in mind the numbers of industry who are working. So do you think that more and more awareness campaign, more and more reaching out to these industries to take NOC for effective use of groundwater is need of the hour?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Souvik Goswami. It is a very pertinent question. Of course, you raised this point during your introduction, but I forgot to answer to this one. Anyway, we know we are having more than 6 lakh industries in India, but as of now, the industries which have given NOC, which have been given NOC, is much less in comparison to the total number. And for that reason, after the guidelines were published during September of 2020, since for the last 2 years, many cases were pending for the OCS areas, that is the overexploited critical and semi-critical areas. So for that reason, Central Groundwater Board from its own side carried out a few camps, taking the FICCI and then taking the PSD Chamber of Commerce and other similar body, CII, etc. In the local areas. We tried to have the awareness generation camps among the industries, so that how they can apply for this NOC, and they should come up, and what are the different aspects of guidelines were also told to them. But even after that also, I don't think that was sufficient. And again, CGWA doesn't have that much of manpower and capability to go even to the grassroots level. Of course, we are planning to have some publications in the media and other things, but I don't think even that is sufficient. But definitely it requires that the industries would need to be made aware. Otherwise, the penal provisions which are available will be prohibitive for many industries which may close when the measures are taken for inspecting whether they're using water illegally or not. So for that reason, there is a dire necessity that the awareness program needs to be raised. We are also planning to have some publications and some publications in the different type of media, and other partners, if they come to this, and even the I also expect that the industry associations, I have named a few, and there are so many other associations and others, they should also raise awareness among their stakeholders, so that they should come forward for taking the NOC for their water use. Thank you.
Right. I know Mr. Pati is busy, and I can see a lot of questions coming in our question answer box. More than, I think, 250 people are watching this webinar live as live delegates. I thank all the delegates who are participating today. So one question, and then I think you have to hurry for some meeting, I guess. Or you can stay back if you're not attending any other.
I'm having a meeting with the secretary. Anyway,
okay. So just one question, and I'll then request you can go for that meeting. But I can see a lot of questions have come into our Q&A box. We'll share with you in written form as well.
I'm having 20 minutes, no problem.
Yeah, so I can just one question. There's one question that there are very limited water auditors authorized by CGWA. When can we expect open water auditors appointments like energy auditors? Mr. Pati, if you can shed some light.
That's a very good question. Actually, this is really a thing which is intriguing everybody of us, the industries, and also to us. So here, what we have said is that we have not accredited the auditors, but what we have mentioned that FICCI and CII, PSD Chamber of Commerce, and now NPC. The people accredited by these organizations will be carrying out the water audit. So I don't think they are limited in numbers, but only thing these organizations have to give the accreditation. And if there is a scarcity, definitely we will review the situation. But here at least it is a we have not mentioned the individuals. It is only the these organizations who are accrediting these auditors.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sri GC Pati, Chairman, Central Groundwater Board, for joining us and delivering the keynote address in this three-part series webinar on effective usage of groundwater management, especially keeping in mind the new guidelines issued by Central Groundwater Authority. Thank you so much, Mr. Pati. We'll be in touch with you. And also, what questions we are having will be sending to you so that you can see which questions can be answered by you offline. And also, we look forward to see more and more awareness campaign on this new guidelines in different states under the guidance of Central Groundwater Board and you. Thank you so much, Sri GC Pati, for joining us and delivering the keynote address.
Okay, thank you. I'll be leaving after 10 to 15 minutes because I'm having another meeting. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. With this, we move to our second speaker, Vinay Chattaraju, co-founder and head business development, Crystal Technology. Crystal Technology is using newest technology, especially for effective usage of groundwater. And I'll come to Vinay. But before that, can we have a short video?
Our top priority is to develop flow meters that address present challenges faced, whilst effectively and effortlessly measuring water flow in the areas of drinking water supply, automation, and others. There are thousands of users who need to track this information on an hourly, daily, and monthly basis, and Dhara Flow Meter instrument infuses new hope to water managers and precision to data-driven decisions.
After the government imposed a regulation to monitor and record the daily water usage, the flow reading have to be collected every day manually and the logbooks have to be kept proper. Any discrepancy might lead to a penalty or sometimes even termination of the factory license. Being a leader, it is important to maintain the efficiency of the process. We can't visit all the sites personally throughout the day. There is a need of a track process remotely from office or from home through a mobile phone or something handy to ensure everything is being done as per the protocol.
We rigorously tested different aspects of the Dhara flow meter under different flow conditions. We found that the Dhara flow meter has low margins of error and an impressive data transmission model. The most remarkable feature of the Dhara flow meter is its simple but robust design, which makes it appropriate for long-term unattended flow measurements.
We are huge believers of leveraging science and technology in all that we do. Dhara Flow Meter is designed in such a way that the user can access real-time data via a web-based system and can also get SMS alerts about flow measurements. This brings to the table a unique means of empowerment to the users by encouraging data-driven decisions. The instrument is an ultrasonic full-bore flow meter which does not have any moving parts. Thus, the instrument has no pressure loss and has a longer life. The instrument is conveniently available in both battery and AC power options. And yes, our instrument is FCRI certified.
My experience in measuring water flow has been changed for the better. My interaction with the device is minimal and all relevant data that previously had to be manually noted and accessed through the logbook is now available on my mobile device just at my fingertips. It was a wise decision to invest in Dhara Flow Meter.
So that was a very insightful video by Crystal Technology. That's IIT Kanpur incubated startup, and they're doing wonderful work in terms of leveraging newest technologies. I'll come to Vinay Chattaraju, co-founder and head business development, Crystal Technologies. Vinay, we see that Crystal is helping industries in meeting the CGWA guidelines through various products and services. We are glad to see bright minds from IITs like you are working on such core problems faced by humanity. Christum has been leveraging advanced technologies and helping industries and commercial units in increasing their water usage efficiency. How can technology help in sustainable usage of groundwater? What major technology interventions do you foresee in the next 5 years which can help in this mission? Your take on that, Vinay.
Yeah, thanks, Shovik. I have a short presentation also, if you can get the sharing right. Yeah, I see. Right. So thanks to all the panelists and the audience who have taken time in this pandemic to come and attend this webinar. I'll directly come to the point. To keep it precise, short and precise, our major experience in also coming from a technology background. So how this various sectors of power sector and automation and this water sector has been evolving over the last 10 years. So what we observed was so water sector in India is almost 1 decade behind the power and solar sector. The automations, the kind of data which we have in power sector is not available in the water sector because of lack of technology penetration into it. The major, when we started Kritznam 5 years back, so we observed what are the major reasons why the technology has not been penetrated in the water sector other than the treatment side. There has been a lot of so technologies have been evolved in the treatment side, but more on the data and the measurement side there has been very limited technologies available. So we observed that primarily the water has a very complex structure, so it flows from rivers to lakes, ponds, canals, tanks, so it has a very complex thing, unlike electricity, which flows in a simple straight lines of wires. So we had to so understand and visualize, so what are the various instruments which are required to get a clear understanding of so the capturing of the data, so where we drive the country more on the data driven decision making. So similarly, so one such product which has evolved in our research is this Dhara Smart Ultrasonic Flow Meter, which we call as the data gold mine. We have been interacting with more than 100+ industries over the last 6 months, especially after the CGWA released these guidelines. So we were initially looking this product for Jal Jeevan mission and some industry automations and all we were working for. So where with the primary thing what we observed was, so where the accessibility of data when required is very less. So we wanted to build a system where the data is used for the day-to-day decision making. So this particular Dhara flow meter, when we did a comparison between the normal flow meters, what we majorly observed was the normal flow meters, especially on this electromagnetic flow meters and all, are very high power consuming instruments. So where you need an external power supply. So, but we have redesigned the whole electronics of the product, and then we have made it fully battery operated, which has an inbuilt telemetry unit. So even the meter and the complete telemetry unit is fully battery powered, which can run 5 years. It can show both instantaneous flow rate, the cumulative flow rate. It has a very incredible feature of showing the total pump working hours, which means we'll be able to measure how many hours the pump was running. So though we say that my limit is, let's say, 100 KLD, but how many hours my pump was running to ensure my electricity bills are also maintained in this. So we'll be able to capture the events like motor on and off, so we will be able to send the trigger, event trigger alerts of data for the data transmission and over there firmware upgrades. So as I said, so this we were initially planning for more of a drinking water supply for the overhead tanks and all, but so we have strongly felt that this is a very apt product for this groundwater extraction monitoring as per the CGWA guidelines, where more than 100+ industries we have installed, and so when we were giving them the daily SMS alerts on their actual consumption, so when we understood why are they, some industries were exceeding their daily consumption limits on a frequently, but when we try to understand is it intentional or so what was the reason, the major answer which we found was, so this is because lack of information. The industries, the owners or the managers and the actual operator are different. The operator and the manager would have an understanding saying that, okay, so my limit is 100 KLD, but an operator would not have this information. So we have started sending this SMS alerts to the managers and the owners saying that, okay, so 100 KLD is your limit, so but you have already reached 90 KLD. So you please check off your consumption. So this kind of feeding the information using a very comfortable platforms like SMS and WhatsApp has actually helped many industries in reducing their overall consumption and keeping the daily usage limit within their limits. This is only at the source monitoring, but when we were when we saw the guidelines which says that the industries have to reduce their consumption by 20 to 30% in 3 years, this is a very big challenge. And industries were feeling that, okay, so to reduce 30%, we need to change major machinery, and which requires a lot of cost investment and all. So when we have done our survey in, I guess, 5 to 6 large industries across India, we have come up with this something called continuous internal water auditing for industries. So where these same flow meters, when installed at multiple locations within the industry, we will be able to track the consumption of the water in the industry process and able to generate analytics through which they can organically reduce up to 20% of the freshwater extraction in 2 to 3 years. This is as per the CGWA Act. And the other associated benefits which we have observed is, so monitoring the actual cost of water associated with the product unit economics. The industries just started considering water as one of their BOM material. So to actual cost of the water is way higher than what is actually being paid as a fee to the as a groundwater abstraction or restoration charges, because the most of the cost lies in the pumping, storage, treatment, and filtration. So there are also some new international standards which are coming, ISO 46001. What again, most of the Indian industries are the raw material supplier to the MNCs outside country. And as we can see, the whole world, especially because of this pandemic, again, the awareness on the sustainability using the resources efficiently has been increasing. So the big industries are already making announcements and saying that they will be taking raw materials only from the industries which are having the sustainability norms. Like ISO 46000 was one of the recent standards in released for the effective water management. And as I can see that the regulations are constantly changing, so we also want the industries to be more prepared for if there are any new guidelines which are imposed, not wantedly, but because of some NGT or any other agency imposes some guidelines for the effective usage. So the process is fairly simple. So what we have, so we have done is the first thing and foremost thing which we require in this is a digitization of the pipeline network. So most of the industries have evolved over a large period of time, and so that pipeline has not been fairly easily understandable, so where the water is coming from and where the water is going. The very first step is required is we need to get the complete pipeline digitized from the source to the final outlet. So once we have this digitized pipeline network available, next we need to do is the classifying the processes. So which, so the industry, as per their experience, is fairly simple process for them. So we need to identify what are the various processes which are involved in the classification, which has a water consumption activity. So once we identify process 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we need to benchmark what are the water needs as per the actual industry standards. The best in the industry, suppose we have done a process in the tanneries. So in the process of pickling, in the process of tanning, what for 1 ton of leather, 1 ton of skin, so what is the average quantity of water which is the best in the world is using. So once we benchmark these water requirements, then what we need to do is we need to start collecting the data, how much we are actually using compared to the benchmark. So this is where we need to we can install this ultrasonic flow meters which can continuously capture the data online. We have observed that most of the industries do have the flow meters in their processes, but the data is not being captured online. So they have a manual process, so which is again, people, the workers keep writing the manual readings in the logbooks, which are not analyzed and so taken up very preventive measures. So with the advancements in the technologies, what we proposed was, so you take this data online directly. Once we have the data online, so we can generate automatic reports. So this is a one-time activity, and we'll be able to send these alerts on a continuous real-time basis in the form of SMS, WhatsApp, mobile app, emails to every relevant stakeholders. They can select benchmarks. Okay, so if my water limit crosses this XYZ limit, so we need to change, right? So this whole process of internal water auditing will be able to calculate total pump working hours, identify the unit economics related to the water, identify process inefficiencies, identify the pumping inefficiencies, identify the leakages and the trends of water footprint, water demand forecast with real-time alerts and notifications, including electricity bill forecast and the production forecast. So this is what we have been actively supporting the industries with these kind of technologies on the metering as well as the water management solutions within the industry. So we are very happy, we are very glad to have supported more than 100+ industries pan-India, and we'll be very keen to support industries as well as the regulations in helping them understand what is the ground realities or challenges being faced by the industries, so that the whole process is very streamlined and industries primary, because so India, we are facing a lot of economic crisis also. So it is very important to encourage industries to have a high production, but with a very high efficiency of usage. So we would want to play our active role in this. So we are always at the service of the nation. So thank you very much for giving us this opportunity.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vinay. That was Vinay Chittaraju, co-founder and head business development, Christian Technology, and wonderful, insightful presentation and how you're trying to make a difference in this water sector through the innovation. I'll come to other speakers, but before I leave you, before I shift to other speakers, I have a question for you, Vinay. I will take the audience question at the last of this webinar. There are a lot of questions. I can see already 20+ questions I can see. We'll take some questions from that as well. But I have a question for you, Vinay. As per the notification, the meter should be BIS or IS standard and shall be tamper-proof. We are not finding the manufacturers who can confidently say that they meet these requirements. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, thanks.
Some clarity on that.
Yeah, thanks, Shavik, for the question. So I guess that's a very, again, same question we have been facing a lot in the market. What we have observed is, so there are no BIS standards for the ultrasonic and electromagnetic flow meters. We do have a BIS standards for mechanical flow meter, which are not very suitable and durable in these conditions. So we have raised this request with Central Groundwater Authority also, and in the recent video conference organized with the various meter manufacturers, this was actively raised. Which Central Groundwater Authority has acknowledged, saying that, okay, so while preparing the guidelines, we had to introduce the standards, but then they also realized that there's not many standards have been evolved. So, but I guess there has been a lot of hue in the market saying that, so we are not getting the specifications as required. And similarly, the tamper-proof, so definitely as a measuring instrument, so things should be tamper-proof, and these are primarily used for the regulation purpose. We have again requested Central Groundwater Authority to release a proper specification for the metering, so which can be followed constantly throughout the country. So I believe Central Groundwater Authority is already working on it, and we are expecting these guidelines to be received from the regulatory authorities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. With this, we come to a very important speaker, Dr. Pandit Madhure, Director, Groundwater Department, Government of Telangana. Thank you, Dr. Pandit. Thank you so much for joining us. My question to you will be that Telangana is the youngest and one of the progressive states in India, and have been adopting best practices in most of the fields. And it's been a role model for other states as well in a lot of areas. What are your views on the new guidelines from Central Groundwater Authority, especially related to water auditing, tamper-proof telemetry metering, and pricing of groundwater? And by when Telangana is likely to implement this in their own act? If you shed some light on this, please.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, the M panelists who are there, join here, and a respected chairman, Central Groundwater Board. As you rightly said that the Telangana is one of the youngest state, which formed in 2014 only, and mainly it was formed based upon the for the fair distribution of water resources, and that was the main basis for formation of Telangana state. Our Honorable Chief Minister, he has fought, and we got the Telangana state. As you know very well, after formation of the Telangana state, the government of Telangana is doing tremendous in the water sector, more particularly the water sector, both institutional changes as well as the both supply side as well as the demand side changes. So institutional changes is mainly the reorganization of the entire Telangana irrigation department. They have streamlined based upon the basin approach, and each basin they have been they are headed by the chief engineers, and they have given a lot of powers with financial disposition at their disposal to take the operation and maintenance also. And the government of Telangana has done, they have it is one of the prestigious projects, that is the rejuvenation of the Mission Kakatiya tanks. Almost there were 47,000 tanks are there in the state, and out of those 47,000 tanks, almost 27,000, more than 27,000 tanks have been rejuvenated. And presently we are filling those tanks with the surface water from the Kaleshwaram lift irrigation project, which is one of the largest lift irrigation project in the world. So we are lifting the water from almost 100 MSL level to almost more than 600 MSL level in the various stages. And we are bringing that water to the hinterland of the Telangana state. And because of that, and we have constructed a lot of check dams also in the fourth order and above stream also. We have constructed a lot of check dams, and we are filling the tanks. More than 10,000 tanks have been filled on annual basis, on regular basis. And because of all these measures and apart from that, we have taken up the lot of aquifer rejuvenation program through artificial measures also. Your construction of recharge shaft in overexploited blocks, such things have been done. And as a result of all these things, the water levels in the last year, it means this year, no doubt this year the rainfall is quite good, but apart from that, because of the measures taken by the government, and the water levels have risen tremendously, more particularly in the hinterland of Telangana, mainly the Siddipet, Sarisila districts and the Bongir districts, Sangareddy and Medak, all of these districts, the water levels have been risen tremendously. Almost more than average rise was about 3.5 meters in the last year, this year. So this is one of the major, and it has been Niti Aayog has also taken the note of this, and the Central Groundwater Board has taken the note of this, that there is a tremendous rise in the water levels. And as per the groundwater resource estimations are concerned, and recently we have compiled the groundwater resources of the entire Telangana state, and as per the latest estimation report, almost there is a 6 to 7% stage of extraction has been reduced. It means earlier the stage of extraction about 66%, now it has come down to less than 60%. So these are the changes we have observed in the water sector. Apart from this, so in implementation of this Central Groundwater Act, already the government of Telangana is implementing the TS Volta Act as per the GO number 47 Panchayat Raj Rural Development, which was released in 2003. So before CGWA Act has come, this new guidelines has come, which has come in the September. So we are implementing the TS Volta Act since more than 15 years back. And it is one of the pioneering state. It means the initial state which has taken this implementation of the Volta Act. So under this Volta Act, so we are having the lot of, we have formulated a lot of guidelines which are on par comparison with CGWA guidelines. There are some, they are somewhat more stringent in some places and somewhat lenient in some places. So in this matter, actually, we have written to the government to suitably modify our Volta Act wherever we are lenient. So to modify those Volta Act and go for the CGWA guidelines. And wherever the state Volta Act are stronger, and we are going to implement the Volta Act as per the these provisions. So this is about these things, and we have written to the government, and the government is actively it is taking actively in consideration. And apart from TS Volta Act, we are implementing the TSI Pass. That is one of the act where this act was passed in 2014. This is the act, Telangana State Industrial Project Approval and Self-Certification System, TSI Pass. Under this, actually, for speedy processing of application for issue of various clearance required for setting up of industries at a single point based on the self-certification. So here, what the industry, suppose some industry wanted to establish one industry in the Telangana state, they will just go to the TSI Pass website of the industry department, they will fill up the form and pay the required fees for the each whatever the they require the permission. And under that act, wherever some industries want to have the groundwater clearance, so they will necessarily they will put their requirement, how much KLD is required for drinking purpose, how much KLD is required for the industrial purpose, and how many workforce is there, what is their investment, all that it is having all the details. So they have to fill up. And once that is filled up and they pay the necessary fees, that actually comes to the groundwater department website. And we are having the logins, and we go, we just process the application within 15 days. That is, the timeline is about 14 days. So we process the entire process of giving the clearance, whether we can, in the initial stage itself, if the formalities are not completed, we will reject at initial stage. If the formalities are completed, then we accept the form and we give the clearance, whether to give either as acceptance or the rejection, or according to the whatever the need is required. So based upon the detailed hydrological investigations which our district officers carry out, so within that time frame we give the clearance. Either we give the clearance or we reject within the time frame. So this is one of the major TSI Act. And under this TSI Pass Act, almost there are about there is a total investment of more than 2 lakh crores. And which has generated about 15.55 lakh employment also for the entire state. And apart from this TSI Pass, now we are going for the Vault Act. Actually, wherever, suppose for this is for industrial, for other purposes also, say for suppose some agriculture farmer or some one domestic farmers, domestic person wants to get the permission. So we are for this also we are going online. So this is almost complete in the final stage of completion. Once it is completed, we are giving the login to all the individuals who will be applying, and all the district officers also who will be doing that login, and they will do the necessary clearance as per the existing act. So this is about the Vault Act also for other purpose also, apart from industries, for that is your domestic or infrastructure or something like that. So if you want how the TSI Pass works, just I will go through. If you have my PPT, I will just share that thing, and after that I will share the thing. So what are the similarities between the CGWA guidelines and TS Vault Act, and what are the differences in the TS Vault Act and the CGWA guidelines, where we are going to improve ourselves. And one thing I wanted to share here. So apart from this, all these things, we are also clearly mentioning whenever we are giving the clearance for this under TSI Pass, we are clearly mentioning about this installation of flow meters. We are compulsory insisting to install a flow meter for each industry. We are, whether whatever the amount of water they are drying, they must install the flow meter, and they should submit the data to the concerned district officers. And we are also insisting to fully treat the water and recycle that thing and reuse that water also. And we are insisting for construction of recharge structures. Then they should construct piezometers in their industries for monitoring of the water levels, and they should submit the data to the concerned district offices. And they should give the permission for our officers who, whenever they will visit their industries for the inspection of all the. And some of the most of the industries, they are complying to these things, and they are submitting the data to the concerned district officers, which is compiled at the district at the head office of the groundwater department at Hyderabad. So this is the one thing. So can you share the?
Yes. Is there on screen?
Yes. Yeah. Please. Next slide. Yeah, as I have already told that these are the major silent features of the Telangana state. Yeah. Next, please. Yeah, this is the source-wise irrigation in Telangana state, how the irrigation sector has been developed in the more particularly the groundwater. You can see tremendous increase in the groundwater sector. It means groundwater-based irrigation, almost 23 lakh hectare of irrigated area is under groundwater. Yeah, next please. Yeah. If you see this thing, how the water level changes are taking place. It means if you see the latest water level graph, this is the uppermost. This one, you can see the shallow water levels this year as compared to 2019 and 2017-18, all those things. So these are the these are because of the multi-pronged approach in water sector taken by the government of Telangana, the water levels have been risen tremendously. Next, please. Yeah, if you see this figure, both pre-monsoon as well as the post-monsoon season, this is the decadal average water levels during the 2010 to 19. This is the pre-monsoon season and this is the post-monsoon season. And you see pre-monsoon season, the water levels of more than 20 meters area covered, more area than the present one. And if you see the post-monsoon season, so tremendous rise in the water level of less than 5 meters. You can see the blue patch, most of the area is within the less than 5 meter water level. So previous shallow water table less than 10 meter increased from 33 to 48%. Deep water level area decreased by 10 to 8%. Yeah, during pre-monsoon season also. And during the post-monsoon season, less than 10 meter area increased from 66 to 92% almost. Please go ahead, next. Yeah, this is about the groundwater resource availability, what I was talking to you. Now almost 60%, earlier it was about 65 to 66%. Now the reduction is there, almost 6 to 7% reduction in the groundwater extraction rate. So because of all this multi-pronged approach taken by the government of Telangana. Next, please. Yeah, these are some of the successful stories, how the water table has been increased. We are continuously monitoring the Mission Kaktiya wells, where our government has, irrigation department has taken a lot of regeneration programs. So we are monitoring those, we have established some of the key wells in those influence as well as non-influence zone. And we have seen a lot of improvement in the water level in the influence zone of the tank, where this regeneration measures have been taken up as compared to the non-influence zones. Almost rise in water table, almost 9 to 10, 12 meter is observed. Yields, temperatures, sustainability of the wells have been increased. Then this has farmers, they are able to raise 2 crops, and farmers are getting an annual income of about 1 lakh per annually also now. Yeah, next please. So just I want to tell about the facts about water and its governance. As already Chairman Central Groundwater Board has already told these things. So India, so I am not going to talk about that thing. So these are the basic facts, what is the groundwater contribution to the India, and what is the precipitation. 50% of precipitation takes place within 15 days. Actually, whatever the precipitation takes place in India, it takes place within 15 days and less than 100 hours. And evaporation, we are left with 2000 BCM, and presently almost our requirement for 2025 is about 843 BCM, and by 2050 it will be about 1180 BCM. So average consumption of water per capita availability, it is dwindling. Now almost it is less than around 1340 cubic meter per year, so which is less than the 1700 required. Yeah, 1700 is required. Yeah, next please. So what are the major facts about the groundwater governance? We don't consume water, but we use and discharge. We don't consume water, but what we do, we use the water and we discharge through various media. Therefore, it can be treated and then reused and recycled for future use. So we are not consuming the water. We are consuming water, but we are discharging in the different forms. So we can treat that water and we can reuse that water for future use. Our over the past decades, country has learned critical lessons on water management and evolved new paradigm. So no doubt we have learned a lot of in the last 10 years. We have learned a lot of things, and the droughts of late 1990s has made us to make it shift towards rainwater harvesting. And by mid 2020, these efforts coalesced into NREGA. That is under NREGA, a lot of works have been taking place in water sector. And because of that, if you go through the recent Yojana magazine, you can see a lot of things that how the different states, they have improved their water levels through NREGA, how it has benefited to raise the water table. Our water future is our wisdom, and in this we must recognize that water and culture together. So it is very much essential that water and culture, they should go together in hand. Water shortage is not about the failure of rain. It is about the failure of society to live and share its water endowments. So it is not because of the failure of your rain, but it is mainly because of the society, because how we are sharing, because some of the areas they are getting lot of water, and some of the peri-urban areas of the urban areas, if you see, they are lot of people are getting very less water. So we are not sharing that. Proper sharing of water is not there. So it is very much essential that sharing of water should be there properly. Making an adequate quantity of water governance, it requires almost 4 points. Making an adequate quantity of drinking water available to the people. So as part of this, my government of Telangana is taken the Mission Bhagiratha program, that Jal Mission program of Government of India, which is at the national level, and in the state we are taking up the Mission Bhagiratha program, under which we are supplying potable water to the almost 100 LPC to rural area, 135 to the more urban areas, and almost 170 to the major urban municipalities. So this is almost we have completed, and we are getting our population is getting the potable water. So this is the surface water, treated surface water. Improving low water use efficiency in irrigation and industry. A drop of water saved is drop added to the ecosystem. And as already Mr. Vinay has already told that industries, they should reduce almost 20 to 25. So the target should be about 20% to improve by the uses. Tackling pollution problem is also one of the major things in mainly the water bodies. Then, next, reducing and recycling. Yeah, that is also one of the things. Then industries, actually, they should go for the 5 R's, which I suggest always. That is your reduce, recycle, reuse, recharge, and respect. Almost this National Water Mission, the main motto of the National Water Mission is also, so they are giving priority to these 5 R's. And this can be done through preparing industry-specific audit and carrying out, as Mr. Vinay has already told, that industry, they should carry out the specific audit, and they're preparing water circuit diagram, and as already he has told that they should have that water circuit basic diagrams and water balance with industry-specific. Wastewater recycling and reuse, it is also very much essential, because industries, they are treating the water, but they are not reusing that water. So it is very much need of the hour that the industries, they should reuse the water. Then regulatory measures, strict regulatory measures, we have to go. Specific water consumption and benchmarking, we have to give the industry, they should adopt. Understanding water utilities, basic pumps and cooling towers, they should understand all those things. Then adopting advanced water and wastewater treatment technologies, it is also one of the need of the hour. Then cost benefit analysis also is very much essential. How much they are using that water and how much cost benefit ratio analysis they should carry out. Next, please. Yeah, already I was talking about the TSI pass. This is one of the act under which we are clearing the initial clearance for water. Yes, please. So what is the basic main component of the TSI pass? Application of permission to dig borewell and from the groundwater department. Actually, groundwater department is mainly authorized to issue the permission. Then the proponent shall submit application online through TSI pass. That is the website. The applications are pre-scrutinized online at TSI pass to verify the application is in the full form with all required enclosures. Then the deficiency in the application will be informed by the scrutinizing officer to the applicant. Initial stage itself, they will be informed. Then processing the application, the submitted application will be sent to the concerned officers. The officer shall undertake the inspection to examine the feasibility of digging a borewell based on the application submitted. If digging is feasible and required documents are furnished, the officer shall forward the application for approval. After approval by the authority, the permission is provided to the proponent within the stipulated time of 15 days. Checklist, these are the checklists. That is, they should submit the photocopy of passbook, title deed, IB extract, register sale deed of the lands. Then timeline is 14 days. As I already told, that TS Vault Act for other purpose, permissions are given manually by groundwater department through local revenue authorities at present. But the process is online. But the process of online is already initiated with the TSI pass. So we are already in the process of giving the online for the other purposes also, apart from the industries. Next, please. Yeah, I was talking about this. What are the basic differences between the CGWA guidelines and the TS Vault Act? Mainly, the CGWA guidelines deals about 15 to 16 to 17 main categories of permissions. that is exemptions. What are the exemptions given under CGWA guidelines? Almost five type of industries or 5 types of individuals, they have been given the permission. That is, there is no requirement of the for clearance, like your individual domestic consumers, then RWS schemes, then armed and central forces, then agriculture activities, micro and MSME. So who are using less than 10. But as per our Vault Act, we are not giving any exemption. So presently, but as the CGWA guidelines says that these are the with respect to 5 compulsory, they have to be given the permission. So we have written to the authorities to take note of all those things and give the necessary instructions. Then next is the registration of drilling rigs. Already Groundwater department is registering the drilling rigs all over the state. So each district officers, by paying the minimum charges, so they are registering the drilling rigs under the under TS Water Act. Then drinking and domestic for residential apartments, group housing societies. Under this, actually, NOC is required for as per Water Act also. Then agriculture sector, no NOC is required, but for as per Water Act, NOC is required. Then, but we are insisting for minimum spacing. So whereas the CGWA guideline doesn't mention any minimum spacing between the 2 wells, but the Water Act, we are we are keeping that minimum spacing between the 2 wells should be there. That is 250 in the hard rock area, then less than 200 in the soft rock area. So these are some of the major difference between the Water and CGWA guidelines. And in overexploited areas, we are not giving permission for agriculture. Also, we are not giving the permission except drinking purpose. Next, please. Then commercial use, NOC is required. Abstraction charges are imposed, but here also NOC is required. But we are not initially at the present Vault Act doesn't mention about the abstraction charges. We are not mentioned. So anyhow, we have written to the authority to go for the stringent guidelines. That is your CGWA guidelines. Then industrial use, NOC is required. Here also NOC is required, but the only difference is no abstraction charges are mentioned in Vault Act. So we are not presently, we are not charging any abstraction charges, but whereas the CGWA guidelines mention about the abstraction charges. So we have given we have written to the authority to take note of these things and issue the necessary guidelines. Then mining project also, we are giving the clearance, but we are not charging anything for now. We will take, we have taken the note of that things, and necessary, we are waiting for the necessary decision from the government. Then infrastructure project also, we are also insisting for the NOC is required very much, but only the difference is that abstraction charges, we are not charging anything for the groundwater extractions. Next, presently. Then period timeline, we are within 15 days, we are giving the clearance, both Vault as well as the TSI pass. Validity of NOC is 5 years as per guidelines, and in our case, there is not mention about the validity period. But anyhow, we will we have written to all these things to modify the Vault Act. Then renewal of NOC, here also no renewal provision is there, but whereas in the guidelines it is there. Then delegation of powers against the illegal groundwater, we are having our DGDO, they are the designated officers to seize the borewell or to seize the drilling machines, all those things. So that is there. Provisions for penalty is there. Both act, our CGWA Vault Act also is having the penalty provision for levying the penalty up to 1 lakh also. Then water audit, it is mentioned in guidelines, but in Vault it is not mentioned. So impact assessments reports, it is mentioned, but in our guidelines it is not there. So some of these are some of the differences which are with on par with the CGWA guidelines. Next, please. Next, yeah. So these are the basic differences between the guidelines and our act. So wherever our acts are stringent, we will follow our stringent CGWA Vault Act, and wherever my Vault Act are really lenient, we have written to the government to adopt the CGWA guidelines, so that we can control the groundwater extraction. For bulk industries also, we have written to the government to give the clarity so that we can move forward. So these are the main case studies. As I have already told, Mission Bhagirath, we are implementing Mission Kakatiya. Then one more thing, 2 other things I wanted to highlight here. Apart from your Telangana, other states which where the industries were facing a lot of problem, how they have overcome that problem. One is the major Devas industrial area of Madhya Pradesh. Almost in 1990s, almost 60% of the industries, they were shut down because of the non-availability of the water. And they have implemented one project, and now they are transporting the Narmada water from to the river Shipra, and they have made an agreement that this much of quantum of water will be shifted compulsorily by 2037. Now, because of that, there is assurance to the industry that there is assure that water will be available. Now it has created a lot of jobs. Almost 10,000 new jobs have been created, and now exports about they have export about more than 7,500 crores, and with new investment of 3,000 crores. So because this is the management aspect of the industries. Then Nagpur also, in Nagpur also, they have privatized your water supply, that is your Orange City water. So one company, Veolia India, they are supplying the water 24/7, and almost they have invested 550 crores, and they have laid down the 6,600 kilometer pipeline and maintained about more than 3,000 kilometer pipeline. And they have achieved the main two goals, that is supply of water to every household, then reduce losses by 60 from present 60% to 25%. So these are the major case studies, and because of that, we can solve the problems. Next, please. Yeah, these are some of the snippets. Our Honorable CM were inaugurating some of the irrigation projects. Our Secretary Sir is also there, our Honorable Finance Ministers. Next, please. Yeah, this for implementation of the one groundwater recharge plan, management plan by the government of Telangana, Honorable Minister of Jal Shakti, Shekhawat Sir, has awarded us the prize. Next. These are some of the initiatives taken under National Hydro Project. We are implementing the National Hydro Project in the Telangana state, where we are implementing, we are installing a lot of DWR, digital water level recorders, and we are sharing that data to the WIMS also national level and on hourly basis. Next. Yeah, next. Yeah, thank you. This is about the things. I wanted to highlight one thing, say about the quote of M.S. Swaminathan, where he says that if conservation of natural resources goes wrong, nothing else will go right. So this is the quote given by the M.S. Swaminathan. So it is very much essential that we have to conserve the natural resources. Then only everything will go right. If not, then I think the problem will be faced by all the individuals. Yeah, Mr. Savik.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pandit Madhunre, Director, Groundwater Department, Government of Telangana.
Thank you
for enlightening all of us and all of our viewers that what kind of steps been undertaken in the state of Telangana and what kind of innovation is also being leveraged while making those policies, making those important decisions in place. Thank you so much, and I'm sure audience who are present here today watching this webinar will be connecting with you as well, as well the industry stakeholders and also government stakeholders. Thank you so much, Dr. Pandit. With this, we move to we had a perspective from Telangana. Let's have a perspective from Haryana. We have with us Mr. Anil Bhatia, Chief Technology Officer, Haryana Water Resources Authority, who also happens to be a retired director of Central Groundwater Board. Mr. Bhatia, my question to you will be that again, Haryana has a major commercial region, Gurgaon, along with many industries like Faridabad, Panipat, Kundli, and others. What is the vision of Haryana state on regulating groundwater for industries in terms of water auditing? I'll be very specific in terms of water auditing, tamper-proof telemetry metering, and pricing on groundwater. Your take on that?
You're right that groundwater in around NCR, especially Gurgaon and Faridabad, they are under highly stressed condition. At one time, the groundwater in Gurgaon city and around the city completely exhausted, and the CGWA came into the picture, and we notified that area, and we restricted the construction of new tube wells. After that, keeping in the view of this, the Haryana government came into action, and they have prepared one dedicated canal for water supply to the Gurgaon and surrounding areas. So with this, the condition in Gurgaon is improving day by day. But the improvement is not sufficient to meet the future requirement also. Likewise, Municipal Corporation of Faridabad is also under highly stressed state. So this is also CGW has notified it. And now Haryana has adopted more or less the same guidelines as of CGWA. And we have imposed water tariff, abstraction tariff in these areas. And the tariff rates are a bit higher with respect to other areas. Likewise, to reduce the stress in these areas, we are promoting the industries in northwestern part of the NCR, that is like Jhajjar, and in south is Palwal areas where groundwater is saline. So this saline water is being used by the agriculture. Now we are promoting that industry should come here, and for this we have made the groundwater without any tariff charges. So this will help not only to lower the water table, but will also conserve the fresh groundwater which is being used in other part of area. Like water auditing, we have decided that from 100 to 500, it will be self-auditing. We have made a set pro forma on this. The consumer will have to fill it and send to us. Our expert will analyze this pro forma and then suggest where you can save the water and how much water permission should be given to them. And for 500 and above, we had adopted the policy which has been given by the CGWA. So I think with this, we'll be able to conserve a lot of water, especially in the industrial sector. The other is the impact assessment report. The CGW has asked to prepare impact assessment report right from 100 KLD and above. But for 100 KLD, I think technically it is not feasible. So we have given that for consumers who are withdrawing groundwater more than 500 KLD, they will be required to submit the impact assessment report. But in future, we are planning that impact assessment report for one industrial cluster will be prepared, and that impact assessment report, which will be in detail with all, including all parameters like pollution, depletion, and the recommendations of the report, how we can conserve or reduce the abstraction of groundwater. So that impact assessment report will be applicable to all the industries of that clusters. So these changes we have made. Yes, please, Mr. Souvik. One more suggestion I would like to give.
Yes.
That we have left the agriculture sector at all, because 90% of the groundwater is being consumed in Haryana in agriculture sector. So I don't say that all the such stringent conditions should be made for them, but there should be some guidelines to the agriculture sectors so that the major consumer of the groundwater, we can tackle them and reduce the extraction of groundwater or over exploitation of the groundwater. Yes, please.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhatia. I think what you have said at last is very important suggestions you have given, that there should be stringency should not be there, rather pragmatic approach should be taken. And thank you so much for that. With this, we move to
thank you,
Mr. S.K. Chaurasia, Chief Executive Officer, Adit Infotech, Nagpur. Mr. Chaurasia, my question to you will be that I think you are one of the most important person in this whole webinar who is actually working on the ground in helping the project proponents comply with the regulations. Can you please bring up some ground realities on what challenges are faced in implementing the regulations? What feedback do you wish to give to other eminent speakers here to ensure the guidelines are constantly improved or sustainable usage of groundwater? Your take on that, Mr. Chaurasia.
Yeah. Good afternoon to everyone. And first of all, we thank you for this webinar. The very nice, valuable information has shared by our keynote speaker, Mr. G.C. Pati, Chairman CGWB. Similarly, Dr. Pandit Madnure sir, Director Groundwater Department, Government of Telangana. And then Mr. Anil Bhatia sir, Chief Technology Officer, Haryana. And Mr. Vinay Chatraju sir. They have given a very nice information, valuable information. And apart from this, actually, I am talking about the industry part. The industry, where the industries are now facing some issues. So that is as Mr. G.C. Pati sir has already informed, that there is several guidelines have been issued by CGWA. On 8th of January, there is one guideline issued by the CGWA regarding the installation of flow meter, digital water flow meter on groundwater abstraction structures. This is to bring to all the notice to all the groundwater users that all the project proponents, users drawing groundwater and seeking having NOC shall have to mandatorily install the tamper-proof digital water flow meter with telemetry system on all the groundwater abstraction structures within their premises. Now, here there are some which are from the industry point of view. I just want to focus on this. In more than 90% of the cases, the project proponents rely on the external consultant to guide them in complying with the regulatory norms. Similarly, earlier there has been a lot of hue and cry because of the regulations from CPCB. Now CGWA has also introduced similar guidelines which need some technical expertise to understand the IoT devices and their usage. A large number of groundwater consultants has to be recognized pan-India for smooth implementation of guidelines, regular training programs, webinars, new updates, feedbacks has to be taken from both sides to ensure proper implementation of the guidelines. The communication between CGWA and the project proponent is very minimal. They get to know after 10 to 15 days that NOC has been issued, awarded to them, and they have to run to meet some of the guidelines which are due in 30 days. Tamper-proof flow meter, that is the first condition which need to comply as per the CGWA NOC guidelines. With telemetry system has to be installed within 30 days of the NOC. This is a new technology, and since the time is short, they panic and install something which may not be actually suitable to CGWA. And there is a huge penalty charges are also there, that if any project proponent, they install the faulty flow meter or non-installation of the flow meter within the specific time frame given by the CGWA, then there is a penalty of 2 lakhs. There has been no proper definition of the tamper-proof, as Vinay Chatraju sir has already explained, that there is no proper definition of the tamper-proof smart meter, which is major confusion with industries. We have faced similar issue and evaluated about 5 manufacturers. We then found Custom Technologies from IIT Kanpur, who has developed this Dhara Smart Flow Meter. When we evaluated the flow meter about the tamper-proof features, we found that battery operated is one of the major features, that is the greatest feature available in the Dhara Smart Flow Meter, ultrasonic flow meter, and telemetry system is inbuilt and sealed. There was no chance of any kind of tampering possible. So we started recommending it to our customers. The response was very good. Customers started liking it. It is not only meet the regulatory compliances, it also helps industry in reducing the usage by sending daily SMS alerts on consumption, because top management, they are not bothering about how much groundwater is consuming. Yeah, but what actually when they are getting the alerts, when they are getting the SMS, they came to know this is the amount of groundwater they already consume. And as per the quantum of the groundwater mentioned in the NOC, CGWA NOC, this is. So they can take the proper decision. That is how to reduce the groundwater consumption. I just want to, Sovik sir, I just want to share one of my clients, valuable clients video. So he has given his feedback. So can you allow me to share screen?
So hello, I'm Niraj Varke. I work for Castrol India Limited as a manager HSSE. So recently we have procured 3 water meters from Aditi Infotech. And after a couple of months, we observed multiple issues with these water meters. These water meters were mainly required a power source, then one RTO unit and SIM card for data transmission. So all these 3 things were not able to sync together, and we were not able to get the complete data of these water meters. So we reached back to our vendor, that is Aditi Infotech, and they connected us with the OEM called Krishnam Technologies. Now this Krishnam technology has provided us 3 different water meters, and till now we have observed the very good performance about these water meters. The main benefit, biggest benefit of these water meters is they do not require any additional power source, they do not require any SIM card, and data sync is really smooth. One of the biggest thing which I liked about this Krishnam technology is that after sales support. So even after the sales, whatever the requirements we mentioned to this organization, they have supported us, helped us, and overall the data management for this water meters has been significantly improved for our side, and we are happy with them.
Sir, here we also would like to update because the decision makers are here. And I'm very glad to know that government of Telangana, they issued the NOC within 2 weeks. That is very appreciable. Similarly, my request from on behalf of the industry that now there is a huge penalty charges are there, because if any industry, if they not comply the NOC conditions within a stipulated time, then there is a huge penalties. So now it is a COVID-19 period is going on, lockdown is there, slowdown is also there. So my request to the CGWB chairman is also here, that all the decision makers, that they have to give some kind of relaxation to the industry, because many industry approaches, and because if some industry they are withdrawing the 50 CMD, that is 50 cubic meter per day water, and if they are not complied, if they are failed to comply within 2-3 months, if they are delayed, then there is a huge penalty of rupees like 5 lakhs, 2 lakhs, 8 lakhs, 10 lakhs. Then it is very difficult, because this is the time where the industry needs the support from the government to sustain, to continue, because even we have observed many industries, there the 1,000 workers are there. Now this COVID-19, there is a only guards are there, nobody is there, because because a lot of people affected by this COVID-19. So government has to think that they have to provide them some relaxation. This is my point on behalf of the industry. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving this opportunity. If any questions are there, we are ready.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Anil, Mr. Chaurasia, for sharing your input, and what are the aspects in the ground for using groundwater, especially for industries, and also with the video. That was Mr. S.K. Chaurasia, Chief Executive, Aditi Infotech Nagpur. There are a lot of questions. I can see Vinay answering a lot of them live in the Q&A section, also in the chat box. So I request that if any of you feel to answer any of the question which is there in the Q&A box, you can type it down and you can answer them. With this, we move to a very important speaker, Mr. Manoj Joshi, proprietor, Greenex Corporation, Surat, Gujarat. Mr. Joshi, my question to you will be that we know that Gujarat is one of the biggest industrial areas in the country, and I think the highest number of NOCs are issued in the state of Gujarat, if I'm not wrong. How's your experience on the ground trying to help the industries in meeting the compliances? And what are the key gaps which you have to be addressed immediately from the regulatory side for a smooth implementation of the guidelines? Your take on that, Mr. Joshi. Mr. Joshi, can you hear us?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much. And as you said, the Gujaratis have some culture that generally we say Jai Sri Krishna but here in Gujarat, at our office, and we are promoting like Jal Si Krishna. It's a Jal is water, Jal Si Krishna to everyone here. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to present the ground zero conditions here in Gujarat state. We have a clientele from the different industrial categories, from textile, distilleries, dyes and chemicals, plastics, paper, packaging, pharma, which are water intensive industries starting from 10 KLD to 2500 KLD users. And we are into rainwater management since last 12 years, and we have faced many like challenges we have coming across through by the industries. So I just wanted to put across. मिस्टर एसके चौरसिया जी ने भी अभी काफी सारी बातें बताई जो कि काफी मैं उनसे सहमत हूँ. मिस्टर एसके चौरसिया जी और मिस्टर विनय ने काफी सारी बातें बताई है. तो मैं भी अपनी तरफ से जो पॉइंट्स है उसको हाईलाइट करना चाहूंगा कि लाइक the consultants plays a very major role in helping the project proponent meet the CGWA guidelines. Not all the industries have the environment and sustainability division to manage this, and 90% of them look for a support from outside consultants. Okay, and the major gap, as you said, the challenges faced by the CGWA, and there's a communication gap between the CGWA and the industries. There's a major, I can say, the gap between the industries and the CGWA, and we need to handle it, this query. And every time many of my industrial clients, they email to the CGWA, but there is no response. So I request at least we should have a telephonic support facility for quick clarification for the queries, and we can meet the complete compliance quickly. As we all see, the total number of NOCs issued in India, particularly in Gujarat, almost 10,000, I can say. So out of 6 lakhs, as per the CGWA chairman, as he said just now, the potential is very less as per the target audience. This is definitely because of the lack of awareness among the audience that something like this exists. We need to conduct similar campaigns. Like Mr. Vinay ji was saying, that the campaigning is it can be the major help to educate the industries locally in each state to bring awareness to industry so that they can apply for NOC. Also, the awareness to aware the benefit of the fulfilling the compliance. Like people, they wanted to fulfill the compliance by putting the piezometers, adopting the rainwater harvesting, or the flow meters, but they don't know what are the benefits they are getting out of this by adopting all these practices for fulfilling the compliances. And another challenge I can say, what I observed is like the CGWA is collecting the charges for 3 years in advance for the abstraction, against the abstraction of the water. The industries have taken the NOC as per the NOC demand, right? But the demand can be goes up and down during the season and in a whole year on year. So it should be based on the consumption, not on the permission given, because it can be vary, and basically they are paying in advance very hefty charges. Collecting 3 years cost in upfront is a big financial burden, I can say. And during this pandemic, it's a very huge burden. Okay. And one more point is we are into the rainwater harvesting management. We built a rainwater harvesting structure, and as the CGWA, they have given an option that the industries can obtain a 50% rebate. But they don't have any clarity that how it will be processed. It's not mentioned anywhere. So that is also one of the challenge the industries are facing. And one more thing, that as everyone said, that the installing the telemetry flow meters would be it will be immensely helpful, I can say. But it should be like compute the usage on a quarterly and half-yearly basis, and that could be a great relief for the industries. That is my one of the challenge what we are facing at the ground zero. And like rightly, all the panelists said that the specification of the tamper-proof smart meter is very confusing in the market. Like many of my clients have installed like electromagnetic flow meter, and the CGWA authorities are accepting it also. But as per the notice on 8th January 2020, it's clearly mentioned that it should be a tamper-proof, but it is not specified that what does it mean, the tamper-proof. And the CGWA authorities are accepting under the compliance also. So that should be it should be that I can say that the industry may make some they may face some challenges in coming future by changing the those electromagnetic flow meter also. And one more major concern from my end is few of my clients are not applied for the NOC during the 30th June 2020 and 24th September 2020, and they, as per the public notice dated 26 October 2020, it is mentioned that they have to pay 1 lakh rupees penalty under Section 15 of Environmental Protection Act. So I think this should be waived off. So these are my major concerns. Through you, I definitely request Mr. Chairman to look into this the challenges what we are facing at Ground Zero. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Manoj Joshi, proprietor, Greenex Corporation, Surat, Gujarat, for raising some of the important problems, challenges faced by the stakeholders on ground. And thank you so much for this, your take. And I'll take this opportunity to thank all the speakers who have been part of this webinar for the last 1.5 hours or more than so. I can see a lot of questions have been asked in the Q&A section, also in the chat section, and many of those questions have been answered by Vinay and other speakers through typed answer. But before I wrap this webinar, maybe I can take just one question. If someone can answer, maybe Vinay can answer. There's a question by Dr. S. Vijay Kumar. He has asked that what are the technologies that are allowed by CGWA for properly implementing guidelines? I know GC Patiji is not with us at present, but maybe since Vinay is already working in this field and your company is providing this newest technological solutions. So do you have any idea on that, Vinay? What are the technologies that are followed by CGWA for properly implementing these guidelines?
Yeah, so we need a suite of technologies, Shovik, to maintain these regulations, to implement these regulations effectively. We need a suite of technologies, because groundwater is a very complex topic, and it's not, we cannot just say that, okay, just by, so IoT or, so analytics is one thing which is going to solve this. So we would need a lot of technologies, so one is on the other, the collection of the data, analysis of the data. So how can we predict, so what are the demand in the future? How can we predict the supply in both demand side? We would need a highly analytical solutions which are required. And there has been some requirements from the monitoring of the water quality in real time. So which again which was tried by CPCB, but has not been very successful so far. So we might need some technologies to monitor the water quality from the source, if not in a real time, but in a more of a portable devices which can measure the quality, so maybe if not on a daily basis and a weekly, monthly basis, rather than collecting the samples and sending to the labs. So I feel, we encourage a lot of startups to come up with these various technologies, because it's difficult for one person to say, I want this. So every person having their own field of expertise can think of the problem and solution and come up with this. So my request for the chairman, sir, would be to start encouraging companies, technological companies, to come up with the solutions. In India, Startup India has been very actively promoting these kind of challenges, so including Jal Jeevan Mission, National Hydrology Project, they all keep promoting. So similarly, I request, so chairman, sir, to open some challenges, open invitations from the various startups. We have some wonderful startups in India working in the water sector, which can contribute in the effective usage of the groundwater resources. So this could be so one solution which I can request.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vinay. So that brings us to the end of this three-part series webinar on new groundwater guidelines issued by CGWA and government and industry perspective, challenges and way forward. And for us, APAC News Network, this journey has been enlightening and a lot of insights we have got as a media company as well for last 3 months or so, if I'm not wrong. Vinay has been part of all these three webinars. And in these three webinars, we have tried to get the stakeholders from Central Groundwater Authority, state governments, industry, also the experts, that a platform has been created where stakeholders coming together discussing about the new guidelines so that more and more awareness is being created and the message reaches out to the right audience across India. And just to inform our viewers and speakers that this entire webinar, you can also see it in Facebook and also YouTube. APAC News Network handles in Facebook and YouTube. And to the delegates who are present today, I can see more than 200 plus delegates have actually attended this webinar today for last 1.5 hours. So, and more than 500 people have registered for this webinar. My request to all of you that you will be getting the link of this entire webinar recording through mail, and also will be preparing a newsletter which we'll be sharing with all of you and with all the stakeholders, so that based on this discussion, a documentation has happened, and based on the documentation, new steps can be taken to make these guidelines implemented in a proper professional way, with keeping in mind the use of newest technology, especially for groundwater management. Thank you so much. Let me thank GC Pathi, Chairman, Central Groundwater Board, Dr. Pandit Mandure, Director, Groundwater Department, Government of Telangana, Mr. S.K. Chaurasia, Chief Executive, Aditi Infotech, Nagpur, Mr. Manoj Joshi, Proprietor, Greenix Corporation, Surat, and Mr. Anil Bhatia, CTO, Haryana Water Resources Authority, who also happens to be a retired Director of Central Groundwater Board. Thank you so much. And most importantly, Vinay Chattaraju, young mind, co-founder and head business development, Prism Technologies. And I'm sure deliberations made today in the past two editions will be of utmost importance to create that comprehensive, effective ecosystem of managing groundwater in an effective way. And I'm sure, as you all say, that the aim of this government is to make Jan Andolan, Jal Andolan, a Jan Andolan. And Jal Andolan cannot be a Jan Andolan unless we all do our bit to save groundwater, to use groundwater effectively, especially keeping in mind this situation of pandemic. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do take care of yourself. We are going through a pandemic. Please take care of your loved ones, and please stay at home, wear your mask, maintain COVID appropriate behavior, because that is the only way out, and do get vaccinated. Please take care of yourself. Take care. Goodbye. See you again with new offerings of APAC News Network. Thank you so much.